Typically, when we play the energy market game in workshops and classes, we play with one game master and multiple teams. But to try it out yourself, you can also play it in single-player mode. There are a lot of different features of energy markets that the game explores, and we encourage you to play around with the different versions and bid strategies to see how all these different aspects of the market can change the game results. To learn more about the game and the various energy market concepts it explores, check out energymarketgame.org, either the About Game section, or for more information in the Using the Game section, you'll see frequently asked questions, the Game Master Guide if you're hosting a game, the Player Guide if you're a player, and the game concepts. These pages explore in detail a lot more of the information that I'm going to cover very quickly during this tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you the basics of single-player gameplay and see if we can use our plants to exercise unilateral market power. Quick note here. By trying to exercise unilateral market power, I'm showing one way a generator can exploit a simple offer-based market. Further variations of the energy market game can help show ways to make this more difficult to do in real markets. Think, how could a well-designed market prevent the shenanigans I'm about to pull? Not, wow, we love extremely high energy prices. So to get started, you want to go to energymarketgame.org, and from there, you'll click on the Using the Game tab. If you haven't registered yet, you'll go ahead and click this link to register for free. It'll ask for your email address, and then you'll get that registration code in your email. Once you have your code, we can click on this Create Multi or Single Player Game. Here you'll see a list of all of the different games. Today we're going to try out the one player game, so we'll click this link here. And this brings us to our options for creating today's game. So I'll quickly go through these different scenarios. In the base game, you're playing as a generating company that's submitting offers for each of your power plants in a uniform price auction, and your goal is to make as much money as possible. In a uniform price auction, all operating units are paid the market price. This is how almost all electricity markets in the world operate. So in the base game and in all the subsequent variants, there are 4 periods that represent 1 hour of demand at different times of the day, and you'll offer into each of those auctions. I'll go over what some of these variations do quickly, but you can learn more on that using the Game tab of energymarketgame.org. In the congestion scenario, this game adds a 750 megawatt transmission constraint between north and south regions of the game. In these different forward market scenarios, generating companies have already sold different quantities of fixed price forward contracts for energy before the market is run. The carbon tax scenario adds a carbon tax, and the renewable scenario adds high shares of wind and solar generation. To explore unilateral market power, we'll just select the base game today. We'll leave it the base California portfolio. We'll come down here to select our team. Let's be beachfront. This seed would allow you to recreate the exact game again. We won't make demand or solar random. We'll keep the computer agent default. Here's where we enter our registration code, and then we'll go ahead and create our game. So this is the Game Master link, but since we're playing as a team, we'll click our beachfront link down here. And this is where we get to our gameplay homepage. So let's go through each of these tabs to learn about what they do and what information we should take away from them. Let's start on the far right in this Game Conditions tab. So at the top, you'll see those game conditions we set earlier, but what we want to focus on is the demand table. So what we can see from this demand table, here are those different periods throughout the day that I was talking about. Because we're not playing a game with transmission constraints, we don't have to worry about the separate north and south markets. We can view them as all one market. This load intercept is the demand throughout the day, and so since we're working with one market, we can add those together to get an approximate demand in megawatt hours for each period. This load slope, since it's low, what that tells us is that demand will not change drastically as the price goes up. So looking at period 1, by adding these two numbers together, we can see that demand is going to be about 11,000 megawatt hours. For period 2, it's going to be about 15,000 megawatt hours. For period 3, it's going to be 21,000 megawatt hours. And for period 4, it's going to be about 19,000 megawatt hours. Let's jot all those numbers down so we can remember them when we're thinking about offering into the market. So now that we know more about demand, let's go back up to the top and click this View Capacity tab. So what we should take away from this tab, you can see those periods again, and these are all the different types of generation that is happening in our market. What we really want to look at is the total down here. So we can see for each period, the total capacity that every power plant in our market can produce is 22,050 megawatts. So let's jot that number down as well to keep in mind. Going back to the tabs, we'll skip over View Market and Increment Period. We'll talk about that later. Let's go over to the far left to our Place Bids tab. So here we can see again those 4 periods of the market. Let's look at period 1 and learn more about the plants in our beachfront portfolio. So you can see here are all the different plants. Here's our expected capacity in megawatts. The price, this is what we can change to offer into the market at different prices. You can see it defaults to our marginal cost per megawatt hour. The CO2 is the expected emissions per hour if our plants are running at full capacity. So thinking back to what we already know about demand and the generation capacity in the market, we can add the megawatt production for all of our plants together and see that we can produce about 3,800 megawatts. Now, looking at the different demand, so what I'm seeing here is our generation is going to be necessary to meet demand in period 3 and period 4. So what that tells me is that in period 3 and period 4, I can offer into the market at a really high price because they need my generation to meet that high demand. So for period 1 and 2, let's keep our bids at marginal cost. Period 3 is where we know we're going to meet necessary to meet demand. So let's jack these prices up. So let's try to make our prices really high. Let's use our power to drive the price up. And let's do it in stair steps so we can see if that affects anything. So let's bid in $100 for some of our lower marginal cost plans, and then $200 and then $300 to see what happens. So after I've typed in all my new bids, we'll click update and we can see that our bids have updated. From here, then I'm going to go over to my increment period. So you can move forward by one period at a time, but since we're interested in period 3, let's move it forward 3 to get to period 4. We are in period 4, so we successfully run period 3, and now we'll go up to our view market results. So we've made a pretty nice chunk of change. That's great. The market results tab has a lot of information on it, but to begin with, let's look at our market results graph for period 3. So this one, P3, period 3. And then we'll open up a little bit bigger. So looking at this graph, here's what we can see. This is, at the top it tells us these are the market results for period 3. On the y-axis, this is the price in dollars per megawatt hours. On the x-axis, this is our demand. So if you remember, demand was going to be about 21,000 megawatt hours. We can see that here. And then that low slope meant that as the price went up, demand went down a little bit, but not significantly. We can see here that the market price ended up being $491.08, and that is reflected then in that dotted red line. So that's the market price. And where market price meets demand, everything under and to the left of that, all those plants that generated electricity were paid the market price because it's that uniform price auction. So were we able to use our unilateral market power to drive up the price? It turns out, no, our friend Oldtimers just did it for us. Oldtimers was way more aggressive than we were in trying to drive up the price. They priced all of their power plants at the absolute max. They priced them all $500 per megawatt hour. So we can see our beachfront yellow plants here with our little stair step there. We bid high, we bid a lot higher than a lot of the other players, but we didn't actually succeed in using our generating capacity to drive up the price because Fossil Light, who probably ended up bidding in at that 491 to make it, because it looks like Oldtimers bid in complete 500. Because Fossil Light and Oldtimers bid in even higher than us, they used their capacity to drive up the market price, and we were just the lucky winners from their offer strategy. So even though we bid in that stair step, 100, 200, 300, we are paid the market price, which is that 491 for all of our plants. Looking at other things on this graph that might come up in other games, you can see that horizontal black line is the marginal cost. So a lot of other players bid in at their marginal cost. You can see we bid in far above, and of course Fossil Light and Oldtimers did as well. So going back to that market results tab, that view market results tab, we can see that the other graphs for period 1 and 2 are there. And then if we scroll down, we have more detailed information about the profits per period. So we can see what plants made the most, where our money really came in. And then if we scroll down to the full market results spreadsheet, we can see we did pretty well. We only made a little bit less money than the top winner, Big Coal. So knowing what we know now, we could go back in and place our bids for period 4 and try to maybe push up the price even higher. We encourage you to try to use market power yourself in a base game and see how different game variants can affect the market results. How do you think our strategy as a generating company would have to change if there were transmission constraints? Would it? How about if we had to sell forward contracts? Try it out yourself and see what happens.